All right, here we are. We are
No,
live. This is Friday with Friends with Jeff Doyle. I don't know why I did that because nobody can see us. Oh, here we go. Oh, no, the eye's up, but no one's watching still. So let's bring us up. Let's get rid of that wonderful photograph of you, Jeff, and it'll just be the two of us. And let's make us nice and big and shiny because I feel kind of big and shiny after. So, Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing very well. It's a sunny day here today. It's a little, it's 80 degrees, but hey, I'm inside where the air conditioning is. So
yeah, see, we live in New Hampshire.
I'm not going to complain about that.
So. Yeah, we don't have too much air conditioning here in New Hampshire. Only the rich people have the air conditioning. Diane Macklin, our great friend. Yay! So for those of you that are watching, other than Diane, because apparently there's a couple of others, Diane, Jeff, and I, and Mo Reynolds, who occasionally pops into these Friday with Friends, and Pete Abdullah all performed together on the same stage in Florida at the Florida Storytelling Festival just this year in January. And it was amazing. It was probably one of my favorite groups of people, as it turned out, to work with. It was absolutely incredible. I couldn't have asked for a better bunch of bodies.
It seems like forever ago. I mean, as Colleen, my wife, says, in the before times.
Yeah. I think there's definitely an edge to that. I mean, my son, I don't know if I mentioned this to you yesterday or something, but like earlier this month, he looked at Sarah and I, my wife and I, and he said, you know, if it wasn't COVID-19, it would be May. And here we are in August. And I think there's a huge element of truth to that. It's kind of nutty.
It seems odd that it's August because it seems like we lost our summer. Why couldn't it hit in the middle of the winter?
Yeah, right. When nobody's going out, or at least
I don't want to lose my summer, but
I know.
We've gained most of it back now. So
yeah. So you do building work as well. How's that doing? I should hang on. Let me. You're not a construction guy. You are a architect and a house designer as well as a builder, right?
We own a company that builds and designs and builds custom homes. Yes.
All right.
So it's actually very busy, which is a little bit counterintuitive. You would think that everything would have slowed down, but people keep coming in the door, want to build, and there's not a lot of inventory of homes, existing homes in Michigan anyway. And I think that's true. I think that's true across the country.
Yeah.
With the, even since the recession, we've just not caught up to the amount of housing needs we have. So,
well, that's good for you.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's a little tough to, kind of juggle home building and being a professional storyteller. But there's not been going a lot of places with COVID going on. So that's been fine. But
I have to say that I was going through all my gigs because somebody said, well, how many live gigs, in-person gigs have you done? So I was like, I don't know, I have to have a look. Turns out it was 7 out of the 12 gigs that I've done over the summer of the 45 that I would normally have done.
Right.
So it's kind of crazy. So Pete, he's one of the people that we shared stage with, and Pete, he was like our dad, kind of, wasn't he? He was like everyone's father figure at the Florida Storytelling Festival. He was kind of like the good uncle. Maybe he was better. Yeah,
I don't know if he was a good father figure. Come on.
He was a good uncle.
Don't have to say that about him.
Yeah,
he was way too much fun.
We did. Are we anything to do with the two guys at TBD? Well, there's a few more than 2 of us, but yes, we are. We are indeed. And our next program, seeing as Pete's brought it up. All right. Who's this? Aho, Michigan.
You're awesome.
Yeah, he is. Ann Pott. Did you know Ann Pott?
I believe we've met.
Yeah.
I am in Michigan. I am in Howell, Michigan,
How?
Howell, yeah, is about halfway between Lansing and Detroit. So
Lansing. That's such a bad name.
why is that? That's where
Well,
I
'cause it's
grew
like
up. Don't say that.
I need to get a Lansing on my wart. It's just
Oh, come on. We were car capital of the world.
yeah, I know.
We used to build Oldsmobiles in Lansing, so that was a
Yeah,
pretty
you did.
special place.
I've moved my setup. My mouse is now miles away. I'm going to bring it over here, so I don't have to keep stretching out to the picture.
Yeah, I would say, Jane, he's a pizza fun uncle. That's
yeah,
that's
definitely.
a way better description. So,
oh, and Anne's in Holland. She's Hollish. Maybe she's not Hollish. Name like pot sounds more British than Hollish. But anyway, yes. Oh, I tried to do my best. Yes,
I do
I
like.
may not wear a ring, but I'm definitely married.
On the bottom, and Colleen, my wife, is actually watching, which is unusual that she would want to see me in an interview. So thank you,
Holland,
Colleen.
Michigan. Yeah, I was looking at that name, Colleen. I think I know that from somewhere.
Yeah,
it's your way. Wonderful woman. We've only met that once, I think, at National at Jonesboro. I think.
Yes. Yep. You met her in Jonesboro. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and that was the only time. That's all right. There's all these Paris places, and there's I mean, I live in New London, so you don't have to apologize, Anne, for being in Michigan. I don't know. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. I don't live there. I don't know what it's like.
Oh, Michigan's a beautiful state. It's a hidden treasure surrounded by the Great Lakes. There's, we have all this water like the ocean with no sharks. Nothing in there trying to eat you or bite you. Pete is 84 today.
No, I think he's just saying that 84 is today's 82.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like August is the new May.
There you go.
Yeah, Pete's a great guy. He's a phenomenal storyteller. Oh my gosh, his wit is just razor sharp and as dry as a martini. It's
yeah.
He's
and you don't see it coming, which is the best part. So
I know. One of the things that I love watching about Pete was that, we're sitting on the side of the stage. So we're looking up at the stage, whereas the rest of the audience is looking at him. And you could see him drop his head as he's saying something. And you see the corners of his mouth would turn up just a hair. And then they come back down, and then he'd look up and deliver the punchline. It was great watching him, seeing him perform. It was phenomenal. So Pete did ask us about our thing. Because you created TB. Why don't you tell everybody about TBD Storytellers and how it came about?
Well, I had been touring with another. I'd been at a couple of festivals with another national teller, and they had been doing it a lot longer than I had. So they said that they had this group of people that they met with every year, kind of, if you will, a cohort of people. And
can I ask who was it?
I can't say.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
No, it's Connie Reagan Blake.
Oh, yeah.
So she was saying that she, had these people that she met with every year, and they did a retreat. And I thought, well, at first I thought, well, gosh, maybe I could get them to invite me. And then I thought, God, they're never going to invite me. I realized
this is J. O'Callahan and Doug Littman.
So, who am I? So they were never going to invite me. So I thought, well, I could create my own group. And I was working with Ingrid Nixon at the time on the Lost Diaries of Eve and Adam. And so I said, hey, you want to do this? And she was all for it. And we started inviting people, thinking that no one was going to want to do it with us. And turns out a few people wanted to join us. So
yeah. So how far was I down on that list? Don't answer. I don't want to know. Just in the it must be below the halfway
you
line.
were right there. No, all the people that were there, and it wasn't. It's certainly not meant to be exclusionary.
No,
yeah. I think part of it is I appreciate working in a group. Part of my creative process is really to test my material a lot. even from a very infantile stage of a story. I like to just run it by somebody to see if there's a spark. And I wanted to create a group to do that with, and people to make connection with across the country that were from different backgrounds, had been to different places, and that's how we started it. But Simon, you were one of the first people that we thought of. So
wow, that was very nice of you. I appreciate that. And it's a really varied group of tellers too. That's what I appreciate about it.
The funny thing was, it wasn't ever really supposed to be a public group, or we weren't planning on doing concerts or anything like that. That all came about because of COVID. So,
right.
When COVID came about, we thought, well, what are we going to do? Because we're certainly not going to be able to afford to fly across the country
Michigan,
and meet with each other because nobody was making any money.
Right. Well, that and flight probably.
Yeah, you couldn't fly, so that wasn't going to work. So we started meeting on Zoom, if you will, and then one thing led to another. And we said, well, let's do a concert. So we started doing one concert, then two, and now we're on our third one, and it's a Liars.
Fourth one planned, yeah,
and the fourth one planned. The Pants on Fire, Liar, Liar. Leg one means there's two concerts because there's two legs. So
that's right.
So
it's not a scorch that we're setting fire to. It's a pair of pants. So yeah, this is some of the information. So if you want to come and see, so the storytellers who are in it are Jeff, Norm, Antonio Hoscher, and Ingrid Nixon. And Ingrid was your one of the original founders, right? She was like your co-founder.
Yes.
If you will. Yeah.
And you got something else coming up. Sheila Arnold. So.
And Sheila Arnold. She's really good. Sheila's going to be emceeing. She brings a great perspective to our group because, you tell tour tales. Paul Strickland, who's a part of the... you tell true family stories. You tell true family stories.
Personal stories. Come on.
Paul Strickland tells these zany, like Monty Python-esque, made-up tour stories, which are absolutely brilliant, filled with heart. And then you got Sheila, who does historically accurate, in like dressing up as a character type of person with history, and she does folk tales and she does personal stories. And then you got Ingrid, who does mostly personal stories, right? I'm going to get myself into trouble now.
No, well, she does personal scary stories and some other historical stuff. So
does she get all dressed up?
Fairy tales. What's that?
Does she get all gutted up and dressed up when she's doing historical stuff?
I do not believe so. I have not seen her do that. She's not did not perform in costume. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, I guess so. In my incredibly awkward way. So yeah, and then we got Norm Brecky and Ann Rutherford, who are out in Portland, Oregon, and they do Ann does her Clementine character as well as her other stuff, and then Norm Brecky also does folktales, but he also does personal narrative as well. So he has they do jokes and tons of kids stuff. So
right, and Antonio, Antonio brings his whole
mime. Yeah, he does a whole bunch of it's only I seem to be tiny little niche for me, I guess. I do fucking fairy tales.
That's not true. There's certainly a huge need for that. So
that's true. I think so. So tell us about the Next Living Room.
So Ann Arbor Storytellers Guild, which is kind of where I got my start telling stories, holds Steve Doubt. Holds a monthly storytelling event, and it's not. I think the difference, a lot of the storytelling concerts you see online are multiple performers, and Steve decided that we're going to do one at a time. Lynn Ford has been there. Antonio has been there, and then I am September 12th. So
all right,
7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
You wrote deets down there.
Because if you don't put the D in there, somebody will,
Yeah, it's daylight time.
Ingrid will get confused, and I'm sorry, Ingrid.
I know Ingrid. So Ingrid lives all the way out in Alaska, and like I think the furthest part of Alaska, I don't know. And so she was always complaining that when we put these times up, that we didn't include Alaska because it's a, to be English about it, it's a sod of a long way away. It really is.
Well, and she is, the consummate world traveler. So,
right.
So time, daylight time means a difference to her. So she keeps track of those things.
Well, she doesn't get much of it up there in Alaska, does she?
Well, this time of year they do. Yeah, this time of year they get a lot.
Oh, that's right. They get a lot. That's right. That's when you have to have blackout, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know that she's that far north, but.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. So, Jeff, tell me about your process, because I've seen some of it. I've seen the beginnings of it. You told us that you like to share the seed of an idea right from the get-go, which you've actually done with the TBD Storytellers group. And you wanted us to throw ideas at you, which we surely did. And
right.
And then what do you do? What's your next step in that process?
Well, I think that I'm, I think like most storytellers, I am constantly on the lookout for new material. So different ideas, and they are all around us. And we just don't recognize them. I think 90% of the time we don't see these things as ideas. Usually I get a lot of ideas from having dinner with friends or,
once the wine gets flowing,
because somebody will be saying something just oddball, and I'll go, and I'm the guy in the corner of the table writing things on my napkin that I may or I probably will never use, but you never know. Sometimes they do work that way. And then I think I become a little, once I find an idea I like, I become a little obsessive compulsive about it. Yeah, we never think that, but yeah, and you just keep mulling it over. And then I never used to write stories down, but I figured out, well, I mean, when I started, I would just create them in my head. And when I say write, I don't necessarily always mean written as in written down, but when I create a story, it used to be in my head. Now I've just found it is helpful for me to just get on the computer or on a pad of paper and just start writing. And the goal really for me is write twice as much as you need and cut by 2/3. That's my normal rule of thumb, because you're never going to need all of it. So, and you don't necessarily want all of it. It doesn't have to be perfect.
But the more you write down, the more ideas flow, and then you've got more potential, and you might end up with something that you can break into 2 different stories, presumably.
And for instance, the story that I worked on with you guys, I didn't use, 90% of that stuff went away. And actually the original idea is not even in the story. So it really went a totally, as I wrote and wrote, the cat is still in the story. That is the only thing that is still in the story is a cat.
No laundry chute?
No laundry chute. Yeah, the laundry chute is gone.
Kite?
The kite is there. Yeah, the kite is
Oh, good. So Rachel Hebman out in Idaho, she says, I have several notes on paper towels. They're thicker and they last longer. So maybe you should start carrying some of that around.
Well, you get and then you've got them, and I'm not the most organized person as far as my notes. So I have like a drawer full of napkins and full of napkins and torn off pieces of paper that have.
I'm going to send you a journal so you can start writing. No,
I have actually. So what happens is this goes in the journal. I just open the journal and put the piece of paper in, and that's my journaling for the day. So I have all these pads, or journals stuffed with notes. And the funny thing is, I it kills me. I come up with ideas in the middle, that subconscious sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And if I don't get up and write it down, I will forget it. So then I will get up in the middle of the night and I will write a note, and I will think it is hysterically funny in the middle of the night. And when I get up the next morning and I read the note, whatever, peeing on the sidewalk, I just don't find the same humor in it half the time.
Yeah,
They're not always as funny, but
I used to write a lot of poetry. And in fact, I used to write a lot of poetry until I started telling stories, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
My best stuff was based on ideas that that came to me at like either 3 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock or at midnight, if I was like, really, really tired and like going in and out of sleep and stuff.
Yeah.
And I always used to have a little red notepad next to the bed so that I could write stuff down. I always have a notepad in my bag, which I carry around with me. Did I say Idaho? I'm sorry, Rachel. I know that you live in Utah, so I don't know why I said Idaho. It's not like they both begin with I or end in O. Sorry. So Karen,
he does that to everybody. Rachel, don't take offense.
No, I do. It's terrible. I'm bad with names. I'm bad with yeah. I can tell stories. It's about all I can do, and I can take a good photograph, and that's about it.
I'm sure you do way more than that. So once, I guess to continue on that line, once I've written it, and then I just keep trying it, and that's really where the obsessive compulsive helps, is to always be thinking about how things work. And I don't know, I kind of equate the creative process. It's like, for me, it's like math. I was always very good at math.
Oh, really?
And story problems were great. I love story problems.
Huh.
And I think of writing now like solving a story problem. I guess it is essentially, but that, something has to work, if you just keep working on it until it works. So adding something, and one of my favorite things in a story is just, when it doesn't work, just find something stupid to happen that doesn't make sense in the story and just stick it in there. And because life is full of those things, life is stranger than fiction, right? So
yeah, when we're watching the news, sometimes, it will be something will happen. I'm not going to go into any of that kind of stuff, but something will happen, and we're like, you couldn't make this stuff up. I mean, this is just like so crazy. You can't make this stuff up. It's nuts. Some of the things that you see and hear,
right.
Even on street corners, living in England, I used to walk around a lot or ride my bike places, and so there were, you're not stuck in that box of a car. And listening to people's conversations as they're walking by on the sidewalk, it's like, what? Write that down, There was this one woman talking to herself about John Lennon, well, that back when I was living in Worcester back home. And I was like, what? What's she talking about? She's like talking about meeting John Lennon. So I'm like grabbing my notepad out of my bag, and, my bag, when I was a kid, when I was in my when I was back in Worcester in my late teens, early 20s, my bag used to be an old gas mask bag from World War II. In fact, a lot of my clothes were actually old World War II crap. And I followed her for a while, like writing down what she said. It was kind of different, interesting. Mo's here. Woohoo! I thought you were getting your nails done, Mo.
Haircut. We're getting the band back together, Mo.
I know. We've got Mo. We've got Pete. We've got Diane. My brain's going. So Lauren says, yes, that stick it in explains a lot. It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it explains a lot about Jeff's stories. That's for sure. It's like, what? Where did this come from? It's like, this is totally what?
It's not all supposed to make sense. Come on.
I know, but that's what makes your stuff so interesting. It's, because it's all of a sudden it's like, what? How? What? And then you follow it and you make it make sense. And that's what's so freaking awesome, I think, about your stuff. That's what I like about your stuff anyway. It's really fun. It's cool.
Well, yeah, you got to bring it back around. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So you used to do it like Bobby Norfolk, who used to think about a story and not tell it out loud until he met an audience. But you have that nugget and you share it instantly, but you don't write it down, and you keep working on it.
I think when I started telling stories, well,
I'm not sure who's gone here. Oh, come on. I've got full connection here. All right. Is anybody else? I'm not sure who's frozen. It looks like Jeff. I'm looking at my internet bars and I see everything, but no one else is commenting. And I guess what I'm doing is popping through. Who's live? Can somebody post a comment that says who's live, whether it's Jeff or me? I guess if it's Jeff, you're all right. He's just chit-chatting. Oh, okay. So, yeah, it looks like Jeff's lost it. Yeah, okay, then. Whew. All right. So, well, that's a bummer. We lost Jeff. He'll come back in, and I'll welcome him back in. But, yeah, Lauren, I think that comment is pretty funny because you've worked with him. Here he is. Here we go. We got him back. Yay! I wasn't sure who was frozen. I was looking at my bars thinking,
I thought it was you. I was like, ah. Anyway, when I started telling stories, can I go, or did you if you go on a totally different way?
No. You keep going.
Okay. I had
one whole conversation
story.
was who's live, which must have been extremely exciting for people to listen to.
Yeah. I hope you didn't hear my F-bomb. So,
I might have dropped one of those. Oops. Sorry, folks. Hope the kids are outside.
So I had one story that I learned when I was 12. It was kind of a story joke. The Blue Ape. That's why my website's called The Blue Ape.
Oh, I was going to ask you that.
And
no, I don't have to.
Tear that question up. So my daughter, our daughter Maureen, would ask all the time when friends would come over. She said, "Dad, tell them that story. Tell that story, The Blue Ape." So I told it over and over again. And about after I don't know 5 or 6 years, finally Maureen goes, "Dad, you got to learn a new story." Interestingly enough, I became so I started telling stories to kids around the campfire, and we had this father and kind of had the father and kids camp out. No mothers were allowed, which was great because you could scare the hell out of the children, and nobody cared. Nobody cared that your kids couldn't sleep at night or whatever. So,
well, if you're camping out, you're with them, so it's all up to you.
Right,
anyway.
You have to sort it out. So yeah. I did that, and then my son Mackenzie. He had a teacher named Lainey Levin, and I'm sure some of the audience knows who Lainey Levin is. She's in Chicago now. She's a storyteller. But she was his second and third grade teacher, and she was a professional storyteller. So her and Yvonne Healy both belong to the Ann Arbor Storytellers Guild. And I asked Yvonne one day, I said, "Hey, can I come share a story?" And she invited me to do so. And then I just kept going back. But I never wrote that, I never wrote that story down. And the first couple stories I wrote after that, I could think when I started, I read stories out of a book and then tried to adapt them to myself. Right. Yeah. Oh, no moms. I'm sorry, Rachel.
No, I think it's more like no moms. Ah! That's how I read it.
Yeah. And I didn't, I just read stories and then, adapted them to how I thought they should be told, which worked out fairly well with the kids. But then I started to write a little bit. And when I joined the Ann Arbor Guild, they said, "Do you want to perform at a celebration, at the adult celebration?" And I'd never written a story in my life, or, really written a story for adults. And I wrote a story, And I will never forget because Elizabeth Ellis was sitting in the front row. And when I got up to start telling, she was asleep because we had, she was nodding off. And because we had worked her hard all day, that she'd been performing in schools all day and the celebration. So, but by the time I got done with my story, she was laughing and clapped at the end, and I woke her up. So I thought, well, I must have done okay because I woke Elizabeth Ellis out of her deep sleep. So I just kept writing stories after that.
Cool.
And
when was that? What year was that approximately?
Oh, that was probably about 18 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
So fit somewhere between 15 and 18 years, so early 2000s.
Right.
Yeah.
Good for you. So we started pretty close the same time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long have you been telling stories?
Well, I mean, professionally, I started in 2003. I started in 1996 in youth hostels.
Yeah.
Telling to the families would come and school groups would come, and I'd tell to them. Huh.
You see, my goal, because I wasn't getting paid, was that my goal really, when I started, and I told scary stories at the campfire, my goal was to make a child cry. Because I thought if I could make someone cry, that I had done my job, that I had really achieved something. And, this horrible, looking back, yes, I really don't regret it, but probably
you should know remorse. Go to jail right now, Jeff Doyle.
I really don't regret it because when I did finally achieve my goal, it was truly one of the greatest storytelling moments of my career. It was so much fun.
To make a child cry.
Well, so I built this. Yes, that part wasn't great. But,
okay, all right, that's good. That's what I wanted to hear.
So I it kind of adapted the story I got out of the some campers book about a spider that when it bites you, it puts blue lines around your joints, and then the day later they fall off. Your finger falls off, so that you get a blue line. And then the blue line would move up to your wrist, and then your hand would fall off. But in order to do this, I built this box out of crate wood that was labeled camel. It said live spider.
Okay.
Do not touch. It was just out of crate wood. And it said Iraq on it because it was during the Iraq War or during the first Iraq War. And so I brought this box out that I had created. It had a hasp and a lock on it. I never spoke a word. And this poor little girl started crying when she saw the box. But it put the whole group, there's probably 20 kids there, and a bunch of fathers, that put the whole group on edge. And so I told the story about the camel spider, the deadliest spider in the world, and how one guy sicked the spider on somebody else. Anyway, at the end of the story, I say, "Do you want me to open the box?"
Uh-huh.
And of course, all the kids by that time are like, "Oh yeah!" But there's always a couple in the back that are like, "No, don't open that box."
Yes.
Please don't open that box. And when you open the box, the spider flies out at the kids, and it's great.
It's just a sprung plastic spider, right?
It's changed over the years. It is now just, those snakes you stuff into, the snakes you can buy. Now there's just like the thing is loaded with those. And actually, when you initially open the box, nothing comes out. And then you pull the lever and 5 of those things fly over the crowd too. And everybody takes a really deep breath, and then they just start laughing hysterically. So
yeah, that's that's what I love about spooky stories, is that, like, if it's a jump, right? When I was telling at Jonesboro last year, they said we really want jump stories, and I think I was the only one that told a jump story, and I told 2 of them, and even though I couldn't see the audience, I could hear them doing like this.
Yeah.
And it's the best feeling. And also, like when you get to the end of a really scary story, if it's a deep, quiet one that just like leaves people, you just leave it and let them settle into it. And it's that silence is well, it's either your downfall or it's your making, isn't it? Really?
Right. Yeah, silence at the end of a performance is not always good.
Well, a little silence, not like not like silence. People get up and go. Not that kind. That's a bad silence. No, we don't want that.
Not like we gotta go.
Right. Well, thank you for that. You can go now. Your check might be in the mail.
Your child will now be in therapy.
Yes, I know, right? Well, there's a story that what was it? It's the story of the Piper's Revenge, the Scottish story. And my son, he could not listen to that story. I mean, he was probably 6 when I first started telling it, and he would just, because he was my roadie, he'd come with me everywhere and help me set up and everything. He's freaking awesome. And he'd be like, "You telling that story, Dad?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And he'd be like, "All right, and he'd go to the back of the room and put his head down and cover his ears up. And I'd tell it, and people would be like, "Wow, that's so good," And he'd be like, like he hasn't stopped talking. I'll be like, "It's okay, Aiden, you can take your hands away now."
Right.
Yeah.
I had a similar, my son, Mackenzie, I did not realize didn't like scary stories. And apparently I had, gone too far once, because we had another scary story in the neighborhood. We did a little campfire in the neighborhood, and we actually buried a coffin in the ground. And then in the middle of the
Real
story,
one?
well, it was a box.
Okay.
Shaped like a coffin.
Okay.
We're storytellers. It was a coffin. And in the middle of the story, a father jumped out of the ground. It was buried under the dirt, and all the kids were escorted in and telling a spooky story. And in the middle of the story, the father jumps out of the, talk about a jump story, jumps out of the coffin, out of the ground. He was buried alive. So anyway, Mac didn't go to that. No, I feel badly that I've scarred my son for life, but
he might come around. You should have a conversation with Mo, because Mo, her father, played a horrible trick on her once, which I'm not going to tell. I'll let her tell you that. Or you can actually go back to the other show, one of the previous shows, the one that she was on, and she'll tell you that story right there.
Yeah.
I think scary. Rachel Hedman made a really good point here, and also via good. I love telling my kids love the scary stories. The ability to survive a scary story can be a boost to your confidence. Also, one of the things, I might have mentioned this before, is that if you don't tell kids scary stories, then they don't know how to handle being scared. And when they're scared for the first time, not always in a loving environment, which, if you're telling the kids scary stories in your home, it is a loving environment, hopefully, then they don't get to they don't get to be able to process that and figure out how to handle it. And then if the first experience is out and about in a place where they don't know very well or don't feel comfortable in, it's a terrible experience. So I think telling hard, scary stories, or any hard story, it's important. I mean, obviously, like burying yourself alive and jumping out is probably, taking it too far if your kid's like 5 or 4, but you judge the story for the audience. And I think that,
what I learned, because when I started, I did a lot of that. I was the guy in the guild that got hired for all the Halloween parties. Was that if you started with a fairly mild, funny, what I call the funny, scary stories, kind of the, tag you're it, the rap, which is wrapping paper story. When you start with that, and then you can kind of move through into scarier stuff, even 5 or 6 year old kids, once they know, then they can trust you, and that you're not going to hurt them, and they'll sit there and they'll love those stories. But if you don't have time to build that, and you go directly for the kill, you're going to be in deep trouble.
Yeah, well, I did that once with adults. I was asked to tell Edgar Allan Poe's story. and I went up to Portland, Maine, and this was a Halloween event, and they said, we're really getting into, into Poe. Can you come up with a Poe story? And I was like, all right, okay. And I did the Black Cat, but I did it in the first person, and it was really kind of dark, and it was the first story, and a lot of these people didn't know me, right? There was maybe 5 people in this audience of 50 that knew me. And I was introduced. This is Simon Brooks. He's going to start off with this Poe story. And I get up on the stage and I said, hi, I'm a recovering addict and an abuser. And it was like a 12-step program meeting to the audience. And so I told this story of the black cat with a corkscrew in the eye of the cat. And 5 people got up and walked out. And I was just like, oh, shit. Oops. Learned my lesson there, and then
and that's how we learn. I had a young person with the spider story actually in the box.
Uh-huh.
I had done the whole program, and I usually would end with that at the library. And of course, some mother, they were not supposed to be under 8 years old or whatever. Some mother brings her 4-year-old up right in the middle of that story, and I'm already committed. I can't, I can't quit. And that was another success story on my original premise of making children cry. But I felt really badly about that one.
Yeah. Well, I did that once. I was telling, this. So we had some friends when we used to live up in Orford. We still have these great friends. And this little girl who was such a tomboy, she loved my stories. She'd seen me like, I don't know how many times. And I go and do a scary story thing at the library. And she knows me really, really well. And I start getting into this story. And I'd already, kind of like brought the level up slowly. And she started crying. And I'm just like, wow, this is my friend. I know this girl. And like, why is she crying? This is just, I caught her off guard or something, or hit some sort of nerve that was there. But yeah, scary stories they're good, but you got to be careful with them sometimes, I think. Hang on, what does Via say here? She's got, it's a diatribe. Whoa, cool, blimey, hang on. Can't read it that small. Let me read it this size. The very first storytelling concert I attended, my daughter, 10 years old at the time, was with me, front row, and Linda Goodman, was sharing a story that was taking a very scary turn. And I saw Linda's face as she looked at my daughter. And I could see Linda thinking, oh no, terrifying that poor little girl, but she had to keep going and didn't want to water it down. I learned to call ahead. I think calling ahead to see what the stories are going to be like is a very good idea. Very good idea. Yes. Because Linda Goodman can tell a really good scary story.
And that's now why I tell mostly funny stories for
it's a lot easier
for adult. Well, I mean, people like that.
Yeah. Well, also, you're not gonna. You made me laugh. I really can't stand it. You just made me laugh, and it's like, why did you do that?
Well, I do tend to get sometimes. I've certainly gotten. I think widened my repertoire. But when I initially started writing stories, there were a lot of innuendo in the stories, and which works with most audiences. Unfortunately, not most traditional storytelling audiences who find that upsetting. So, but I've gotten past most of that. So, and now people know what to expect when they come to see me. Yeah. So
isn't it nice when you get to that level where people are like, I like Jeff Doyle, I'm going to go and see him, as opposed to, let's go and check this guy out. He sounds interesting.
Right. Well, there's a lot of arm twisting to building that audience. I mean, I'm a big, you have to, not arm twisting. I mean, I think when I did my first CD, I invited everyone that my mother invited every one of her friends, and it was a free concert. So there was no obligation, but we got a full audience, and you convert people one concert at a time.
Yeah.
Do good work. That's my motto is when you get a chance to be live, especially on stage, or even on, it's a little scarier on, here because people can see you from everywhere. If you're bad, everybody
I know,
everybody
true.
knows you're bad.
At the local library, it doesn't matter so much.
Right. Right. Well, I only screwed up a couple people now.
Yes. I can work that out the next gig.
Right. Not anymore. Not anymore.
Not anymore. Not on this. It's true.
Did you see him? He was terrible.
I know, right? I know. And, it's also like the quality of what we're putting out as well. I think that's, the actual technical quality of stuff as well. I think that's really important. Because if you've got a crappy picture, if you've got a rubbish picture that's not, showing yourself well, or the sound is awful, or you sound tinny, it's like nobody wants to, listen to that or watch that. And I think, you need to bring the quality on all angles. That's what I think anyway. That's my belief.
No, I agree. And I think, not just, I think everybody started with their Zoom on their computer, just trying to figure out how to, trying to figure out how to hook up to it, like a Skype call, and the delay is horrible.
Am I on? I can't see myself.
Right. And then you're totally washed out, or the window, you're in front of the window and the sun's shining and they can't see you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
how are you finding that? I mean, you've got a pretty good setup right now. I like it.
It took a while. I mean, at some point I abandoned the computer microphone and the computer camera, because I couldn't get the camera to balance. I'm so fair skinned that would just wash me out, or I would get, if you think my forehead's shiny now, you should have seen it with the computer camera.
Yeah, they're pretty
like
low resolution. They don't.
Right.
They don't
like
do that.
In the night.
Yeah, Jane brought up a good point here. Jane Ogman Dorfman. She or your mouth and your words don't sync up. It's true. Bye, Ingrid. We love you. Have a good meeting. I'm sure she's going to go and play with the orcas.
Right.
She's wonderful. She's excellent. Yeah, that mouth. Yeah. So
my mouth and thoughts don't always sync up anyway. So
you and me both.
I didn't say that. Did I say that?
I know. There's some. Yeah. There's some.
And now it's on tape.
I know. That's very true. Well, not tape, but yeah, digital. What do we call it now? Because it's like I'm going to film myself, but there's no film involved. It's like I'm going to digitize myself. It doesn't sound as. It's lost some of the romanticism. The romance of film is gone. It's all dead.
Is it still video? I don't even know. I guess it's still video.
I guess.
The camera, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Kevin. How are you?
We're just pixels.
Yeah, we are. Just pixels flying through the ether. That's a weird kind of feeling about it too.
So I did think, it's I think it's funny when you start to tell online, even now, doing this, you're constantly looking, okay, I should be looking at the camera. And then I find myself looking at your picture. And then, of course, the people who are looking at me are going, where the hell is he looking?
Yes, I know. It's like the dog. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah. And, if you put your camera away from your computer, then it looks like you're just staring into space all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I find myself jumping between the lens and looking at you. And, I don't like looking at myself. I don't know. It's like when this house that we moved into has the biggest mirror ever, like in our bathroom. And it's like you're walking up, you're brushing your teeth, and there's like 4 or 5 feet of mirror. You get out of the shower, and it's like it's like I don't need to see any of that. Stop. It's just hang a sheet over it. But yeah, virtual tends to be the cooler word. Virtual. Yeah, but yeah.
I like virtual. Yeah,
I like the word virtual too. And Alan, hey, you got to check out Alan DeBay. He's heading out to Michigan in a week.
All right.
Have you seen Alan perform?
I have not. I've met Alan in a bunch of times, but I don't think I have ever heard Alan tell a story.
Well, you two should hook up. Send messages to each other, or promote yourself well, Alan. Promote yourself well and let us know where you are so that we can.
I'm sure Alan is online somewhere, or
I'm sure he is as well.
He's virtual somewhere.
He is. Diane, we love you loads. thanks for joining us. I hope we put a little smile on your face before you shot off. And hey, Kristen, it's nice to see you. She's a local in town. I love it when my locals show up. Alan is very funny. That's what I've heard. Yes, I want to see Alan. A lot of people say
he's
very
always
good
in
things
a Liars.
about him.
Every time I see him, he's in some. You're in a Liars contest? I've always seen you do Liars contests. So
yeah, I need to see him. I need to see him.
So I'm not a good. I'm not really. Well, I will find out on. We're gonna find out on Tuesday if I'm a decent liar.
I know. I've been thinking the same thing.
Usually, mostly the truth. So, we'll try. I'll see if I can get a lie together.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at that. There's a couple of tall tales that I tell, but they're like really old traditional tall tales that everybody knows. I mean, I recouch them in deep. I couch them deeply in my personal history, so it sounds as if it's true for a certain amount of time. So there is truth. There is truth to the beginning of my story, but then it's kind of like stepping off the edge of a cliff. I mean, I bet Alan would know. I bet most people would know the stories I tell. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't recognize them until I got to that.
Hey,
Tim, yay! We got a good crowd today.
We did get a great crowd today.
Oh yeah, I like what Rachel said. All stories are true. Some are more true than others. That's a very true statement. And Alan was saying,
I get that question a lot when I get off stage. Is that story true? And as long as my mother's not there, because if my mother's there, she'll go, no, that's all bullshit. She won't use those words. But I'll say, yes, of course it's true. I mean, which part is really my favorite response is,
yeah,
well, yes, it is true.
I tied my shoelace.
Did get in the car with my grandparents. So. And we did go out west.
And there was a roof rack.
And there is Coors beer.
That's a great story. That's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah. No, it's a lot.
Rachel says that's always her answer. Well, that's the answer that I've seen you give a lot, Jeff, like on stage, which is kind of yes. And not Tim. What Kevin says. See, Rachel, I get names mixed up all the time, and it's even written in front of me. So almost Kevin says true, almost every word. Yeah, I like that one. And the thing that I used to use a lot was, it's as true in my heart as it is in yours, which is,
So I like my sound guy one time. I got off stage and he goes, please tell me that story's true. And then he said, no, don't tell me. I don't want to know. It's perfect. Don't screw it up. Don't tell me it's not true.
I know, right? Those good stories, you don't want to know. You just want to think that they're true, right? It's like Star Wars. Yes, that's true. It's in somewhere else, but it's true.
I want to know why Hollywood can totally warp the truth and do some historical, they do.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Assassination JFK, which the story has been enhanced. And like, why would you enhance the historic? I
know, the guy got his brains blown out all over his wife. You don't need to enhance that for crying out loud.
Right.
I mean,
so why can't we get away with just bending it through?
It's true. Tim says, I have great respect for the truth. This is his response. I have great respect for the truth. So much respect that I stay as far away from as possible.
I like that response, Tim. I might have to borrow that.
Oh, Alan had his first in person this year. How did it go, Alan? I wish I could bring you on and ask you about that. I've done a few, and the first one for me, it was quite early on. Oh, this is my mother. So in case you see interesting comments from Diana Goldfinch on Facebook, it's my mother. So it'll probably explain a lot of what she says.
Now I understand. Okay. What was wonderful. Simon really like?
Oh, well, yeah. Of course, Star Wars was true. That's right. It's true. It is true. But yeah, my first in person this year it was great. Everyone was good. I'm glad to hear it, Alan. Alan just said it went great. It was kind of weird for me afterwards. When I got home, I wanted to take all my clothes off and jump in the shower, which is what I did. Even though everybody kept a good safe distance.
Isn't that usually how you shower?
No, sometimes I shower with my clothes on. Saves the laundry bill. Just the tie comes off because that's silk. But other than that, it's just like stand there. That's why I look a bit wrinkled. So in case you're wondering why I'm all gusset up for Friday with Friends, because I don't normally get gusset up with Friday with Friends, is because as soon as this ends, which we're going to end pretty promptly at 3 today, I have to run out and jump in the car and drive 3 hours to a gig, an in-person gig. So that first one was really creepy. But the other ones that I've had since then have been actually really, really good. Jaffrey Library did an amazing job. They had stakes in the ground. It was invitation only. So all the families, all the people who were invited, they had their names on these stakes. There was a little basket for the kids with like coloring in pencils and coloring in pictures, so that while it started, if they got there early, and everyone was at least 10 feet away from everybody else, edge to edge. So like one family ended here, the other family started there. There's like 10 feet between them. It's not like 10 feet from the middle of every family.
Right.
Masks were highly encouraged. It was just amazing. And I felt very safe at that. And they had a caution tape 25 feet away from me. And then the first row of audience was 15 feet beyond that. So the closest person to me was like 35 feet away. So, it was great. Outdoors with plenty of room for audience. Yeah, the one I'm going to today is actually indoors. Not sure how I feel about that, but we'll see.
Yeah. It really tells you, though, how much we're all aching to get back in front of a live audience.
Gosh.
I mean, there's nothing like being in front of even 30 people that are live and appreciating your material.
But they're starting to forget how to respond.
Really?
That's this is what I found at my last in-person gig. Like I said, a lot of people have masks on, so I couldn't see their faces. But that was hard in and of itself. But there was a couple of guys who had these big belly laughs who were like, I could see that they were chuckling. Either that or they had shingles or something. I'm not trying to get comfortable. I'm not sure. But I think they were laughing. I hope they were laughing. No, those guidelines, Tim, were not. Basically, if somebody wants me in person, I am saying that I want people at least 25 feet away from me, because the droplets that come out of my mouth, if I'm being an ogre and screaming, can travel 20 feet, right? So 25 feet. The wind was actually blowing against me, so that was good at that particular gig. And then the rest of it is like, beyond that, I don't really care. I mean, I would like people to be safe, and I'd like people to wear masks, and I'd like people to be at least 6 feet away from each other. Better 10, because, outside the air does get blown around a lot, and they say, well, it's only going to drop 6 feet in front of you. But if the wind catches it and carries it, maybe it's 10 feet. You don't know, right? But Rachel said it was here. They forget to respond.
Forgetting they can respond.
Yeah. Right. And so there was
we'll take care of that quickly when we get we get back in front of them. So I'm for one really looking forward to that point in time. I hope it comes sooner than later.
I do too. Rachel says spitting best to be 15 feet or so. I think I've done 20 actually. With a good loogie.
20 feet. Thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm kind of glad we're on, a couple states apart.
Yes, I know.
You can't
sit in the same room. You'd be like, all right, stop.
Yeah, if we were across the table, I'd have to get up.
I'll just move my glass of water. Oh, dear. So do you have any parting words for our audience?
Well, please come and see us on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. For the TBD Pants on Fire Leg 1. We're going to do our best. I know that, we've got Antonio and Ingrid and Norm Brecky and myself telling, and that'll be a hoot.
And Sheila's going to be emceeing, so she's
Sheila
really
will
good
be
at it.
emceeing, and that'll be leg 1. And then in September, we'll have leg 2. And then on September 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I'll be doing a little over an hour long show for the Ann Arbor Storytellers Guild.
And that was the link that I put up ages ago. Hang on, where is it?
Yeah.
That was this one right here. So if you want to go and see Jeff do his magic for the Ann Arbor, this
I've
is
got
the
a
link.
new story I'm debuting there, so looking forward to that.
Does it involve cats?
There is a cat involved.
All right. Oh, Alan says he's got his ticket already for Tuesday.
That's all right. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. We appreciate you greatly. It's nice to see you out there. I keep bumping into him. I'm gonna have to make sure that I get to see this guy because I've heard nothing but good things about Alan.
Yep.
So yeah. All right, folks. Thank you very much indeed for being here with myself and with Jeff Doyle. Jeff's website is, after that story, I bet you can guess, myblueape.com. And go visit Jeff. He does have CDs for sale, even though he's an architect and probably making way more money than people like Rachel Hedman and myself. Buy his CDs. Because then it proves to Colleen that it's actually worth all this effort.
That's right. It is not a total waste of time.
It's not his excuse of a man cave to go and hide in his office for a while. I'm going to work on a new story.
That's right. It's absolutely not a waste of time. It's a love.
It is. It's something that captures us all, I think, those of us that do it. Anyway, thanks everyone for being here.
Thank
Jeff.
you, Simon. Great job.
Thank you, sir. And we'll see each other soon.
All right.